he's had on people within the organization. The motivation, the vision, the insight, the purpose. John, I think you have to know the man a little bit. You know, someone said that 90% of success is showing up. That's what John did. He showed up. John was not some graduate of the Harvard Business School. He didn't get, you know, he was a teacher. He was a school teacher in Queensland. But new family, he's not making enough money, so he gets a milk run. So he and his friend Tony Minogue are getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, delivering milk. And still he needed to make a little more money, so he reads an article about selling educational products, you know. Anyway, he answered the ad, and it was an ad for World Book Encyclopedia, which was Field Educational Enterprises. And he went for the interview, not even knowing what it was. Anyway, they showed him the product and what it was about, and he said, "This is fabulous." But see, he went out, he did it. He loved what he was doing. He had to give up the milk run. I mean, he didn't have time to sleep. Make a long story short, he went from the salesperson to the manager, moved to Sydney, became the managing director. But John, he learned by doing, but he had this uncanny ability to surround himself with people, and he could influence them. John could get people to do things that he couldn't do. He was walking positive reinforcement. He could take Joe less than average off the street and make them personally successful within themselves. Go beyond what they ever thought they could do. He did that to me. You know that saying, "I like me best when I'm with you"? That was John. I liked me best when I was with John.
I first met John in 1983, and he was already a legend. John was at my very first S.W.A.P national conference. I was absolutely blown out of the water by his energy, his strength, his spirit, and also very strongly by the words he used on that occasion, and I've used them and shared them with many people since. He talked about the fact that in the history of mankind, there had never been a statue erected to a critic. He talked about the fact that there was no such thing as constructive criticism. Judgment in terms of assessment is always important, but judgment around condemnation is not. As I moved through my S.W.A.P career into S.W.A.P presidency and eventually national presidency, he guided me in my leadership so gently and yet with such strength by asking questions and challenging me subtly on how I saw things and on how I behaved. By 1986, when I was doing my S.W.A.P national presidency, we had begun to form the National Speakers Association of Australia. And John, of course, was the man who pulled it together. John gave his thumbprint to NSAA, and it was the thumbprint of teaching and sharing and accepting and generosity, and the thumbprint of assessment, the need for growth, but not condemnation. Inclusion always. Yeah, he did.
I had the concept of a speakers bureau that would book professional speakers. John Nevin was one of the first people I shared that with, and he was so enthusiastic. John introduced me to somebody, and I'm sure that it was through that introduction that we got our first booking. John is very passionate about building the professional speaking industry in this country. And I think it's the confidence that he showed in me and what I could do and who I was, and the way that he spoke about me to the referral. It allowed me to step in to be that person. And so it's definitely made a difference in my life. But it wasn't too much longer after that that I got to book John as a speaker for a client. But it's the first time I'd ever said to the client, you know, what you're going to love about working with John is he's going to be as fabulous for you to work with off stage as he is when he will speak on stage. Now, I could hear a bit in her voice, "Oh, what do you mean?" But you know what? When I talked to her after the gig, she was, "Oh yeah," you know what she said? Isn't he an absolute gentleman? I felt real joy when I booked him because I just knew that he would look after my clients so well, as well, of course, as doing a great speech. Sometimes some people would say, well, the good thing about training is that it lasts a long time. Speaking doesn't necessarily. But in booking John, it taught me, well, it depends on who the speaker is. Because if they can get more than just through your mind, but also into your heart, it's very memorable. And it can really make a difference in people's lives. You don't have to speak to them all day to make a difference.